Hey everybody, this is G-Love coming to you live and direct from Phantom Housing here at Insulac Air Base. We're shooting our first inaugural episode of Damn Straight Talk. I'm here with my co-host Fitz. We got two very special guests today, Jamal and Marcus. We're going to be going over mentorship and everything it means to us and what it's going to mean to you guys. So, does anybody want to start with their definition of mentorship and what it means to you?
Mentorship. I mean, I look at it simple to me, honestly. I just look at it as like just pouring into others. I say it all the time, man. Just give what I got to others, you know, and look out for them. You know, that comes with the stripes, that comes with the positions. So it's a simple definition for me.
I'm in agreement with what he said. I've seen him do it firsthand, so it's not like something that has to be forced, not something that you have to sit down and do. I think it should come naturally. You just speak on it. You see something, say something type of thing.
I think like being a young airman, growing up too in the Air Force, or just in life too, like having someone to, you know, give you advice or guidance on like how to go about life, is very important too. And in social development, like, you know, learn how to do things, like how to navigate things properly. So I think that's what like mentorship means to me.
Yeah, I know for me personally, it's just caring about somebody else besides yourself. You knowing something that was done wrong to you later on, earlier in your career, and you trying to fix that problem with the people that you got under you.
Yeah, I think it's key for us to like bring in our personal experiences. So like we all have different career paths and we all been through different things. So when you see somebody going through something, you can kind of rely on what you went through and what helped you and still be cognizant enough not to force your opinion or your way of life coming up in the Air Force on anybody else. You kind of give them guidance, let them make their own decision. Type of thing.
It's kind of funny when you make it on like the other side of it. Like I've been in for like going on 13 years now. Like when the stuff I was going through as an airman, I thought was exclusive to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, ain't nobody ever been through this type of stuff. They treat me like this, blah, blah, blah. And then it's funny, full circle. Me and Green talk all the time. And, you know, he's sitting there telling me the same problems that I had when I was coming in. I was like, man, it's crazy how life works.
Of life, man.
So it's really, mentoring is just sharing the same experiences. Like, all right, I was at this point in my life. I made it through it because of this. And trust me, I know how you feel now, but in a couple years, it's gonna be behind you. You'll be able to guide somebody else through it. So
yeah, and honestly, a lot of people look at like mentorship, especially when you're going through like a trial, as a bad thing. But I don't think, in my personal opinion, not the Air Force's opinion, but I don't think you can get to a prominent position without going through something in your career. Like to just progress through the ranks on a perfect scale. Like how do we know your character when you're going through like some flawed situation? Like if you're not dealing with something tough, you know?
That's scary, actually. I think it's scary people get promoted or just make it through without any adversity, because it's kind of, I think it's like easier to judge people too. I've seen it, like some peers of mine, like you can tell they've never been through any hardships, been a smooth path, and they're quick to judge, quick to want to drop the hammer on somebody for making a mistake. But you ain't never made a mistake before.
It's like,
it's
we all
crazy
make
because,
mistakes.
yeah, it's like for me, how do I know how you're going to perform under pressure if you've never had it?
It's that simple. It's just that simple. So in your short career, have you ever came across anything that you wish?
Oh, yeah, I had like a lot of like problems. I remember when I lost my stripe the first time. I was a senior airman like twice. It was because the PT failed too. And like that, I was like knocked down. I didn't really know who to go to. And it seemed like people around me at the time didn't really care. And at that point, I just wanted to get out. So I didn't have any motivation to get better at PT. I didn't really care about getting my stripe again. So I was like depressed, and everything in my life started falling apart, like my wife, everything like that. So, you know, I definitely look at things clearer now that I'm over that hutch. I passed my PT test, and you know, I got better at fitness a little bit. So after getting through that hunch, I definitely like appreciate things better, and I look at things like at a brighter scale. Like, hey man, if you ever go through something, you know, you're gonna get over it eventually.
So was mentorship like a determining factor of you getting over stuff, or was that like a personal thing you just pushed through?
It was mentorship really, because it took that one supervisor to come talk to me like, hey man, like I'll go running with you, like this is what the workout plan I use, this is how I got better. So him taking the time out to like, hey, make sure I was doing okay and stop me from falling apart was like the defining moment for me.
Was it like your direct supervisor, or like how did that? Your direct supervisor was one that looked out for you, or was just somebody in your work center?
Oh, just somebody in my work center. Right. He realized because I'm a really like happy-go-lucky person. I'm always smiling, and he realized something was. He took the time out to realize something was different about me, and he just sat down and talked with me, and being able to vent that out to him was important to me. So.
Yeah. I think that's the key. Like the fact that it wasn't just your immediate supervisor. It would have been nice for him to already be involved in what you were doing. However, if somebody else is willing to step up and be a mentor to somebody, I think that's a noble thing.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
I wish that was across the entire Air Force, but sometimes people do like to look out for themselves. But when you find those people who are willing to step outside of their own comfort zone or their own workspace to help you out, I think that's legit.
Yeah, I think one of like the things that defines a good mentor, you don't even have to be in this person's work center, their career field, anything. If you see something wrong, like if you see a change in this person, you see something, they're not the same person that they were a couple weeks ago. Find out what's going on. Talk to them. Try to help them out. A lot of people just live on the mentality that, oh, it's not my problem, it's not my job, I don't have to deal with it. And that's why a lot of folks get lost to the wayside.
I feel like a lot of times people are reactionary too. So it's like the dude helped you out when you were in trouble, but if we were already like putting our best foot forward, they would have caught that ahead of time, you know, like making sure he's taken care of before you fail a PT test or like you notice something stressing somebody out. Like if you talking to somebody, typically they'll come in there express how they feel to you. So
it's the tricky part though, because I remember even me, like when I was a staffman, it took me a while to adjust to being a supervisor, because like you only know yourself, right? So you only in your head, so you only know, okay, I go through these type of problems, this is how I get through it. You know, I'm an introvert, so I deal with a lot of things internally, so I assume everybody else can handle things internally. I assume everybody's an adult, because you got people that are fathers, mothers, you know what I'm saying? They're adults in their own right, they lead their own household. So I'm like, all right, PT, like I'm pretty sure if, you know, you having trouble, you'll ask me. That's just what I used to think all the time, but it wasn't the case, you know, and that's when I started being more proactive and started just reaching out to people ahead. But
yeah, I think the conversation we had a couple days ago, we was like, we talking about TBA. You said, you sure he know how to do that?
Yeah.
And to me, it was like the simplest thing, where I was like, you damn right I need to go make sure. He knew what he's doing, but just to check to make sure, give that common courtesy. I think that was good, and I appreciate you, man.
Yeah. Actually, expound on that too, man, for the podcast, man, like what the situation was. So.
Yeah. So the situation was, we have somebody who just got promoted to tech sergeant. We had a new airman in the building or whatnot, and we're going through his TBA to make sure he qualified on task or whatnot. I was like, hey, make sure you get with this guy. Y'all in the same AFSC. Correct his TBA on archive his stuff and sign him off on task. He said, okay. And without me asking if he knew how to do it, I let him do his thing. Come to find out, the TBA was loaded for the wrong person. It wasn't his fault, but that's something we identified. And when I talked to him, he let me know. He's like, hey, make sure he know what he's doing, you know? And we went back, I double checked, and everything was good. So
I think you just got to give people like outlets to ask the dumb questions, right? Because like it happens that you promote, you make staff, you make tech. People assume like you know the basic stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not because maybe you don't. You just maybe had a different career path, or maybe you was in a position before where you didn't have to deal with the administrative tasks. Maybe you were just a technical.
Or coming from another career field.
Yeah, another career field, another base, another way of doing things. So people just assume you know how to do these things. So I always try to give people like a chance to get out the dumb questions. Like, are you sure you know how to use this? So if you don't, I can show you right quick. You know, and most people will take you up on it. Well, I have an idea, but just run it by me real quick, and it kind of gives them an out.
I think it depends on how you ask that question too.
Definitely. The approach is everything. Hey, knowing your people is everything.
He like Jay Smooth over here, so he's like, hey man, like he ain't gonna hurt your feelings, but some people don't know how to
come off too
approach
harsh.
it.
Well, it depends who it is though, because like in this glove,
Yes.
I'm gonna come at him different. Like, what you doing, man?
And that's all dependent upon the relationship. Like he just said, my EPR boy, 14 edits before that thing got done.
Oh yeah.
So
I don't even want to talk. We got to talk about EPRs.
And I was funny, man, because he was ready too, man. He was like, man, he been typing up this thing for like a week, right? Just working nonstop, man, clicking away. I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, hey.
I said, I got it. I
got it, man. Come take a look at it, man. It's fire. It's ready. I was like, all right, cool. Like 5 minutes, I'm like, trash. Nah.
That ain't the part I heard.
Nah.
His first words to me was like, what the hell is this? I was like, oh, sad face, sad emoji.
But that's the relationships you build too. So that's a lot of being able to mentor. You got to
Mm-hmm.
connect with people first.
Yeah,
Like a lot of people talk at people and try to direct them and guide them, and they don't even take the time to establish a relationship first.
Yeah.
And you can't reach people that way. Like if I don't know you personally, or you, my advice is just, you know, throwing against the wall. Like it don't mean nothing. Like
You kind of come off assholeish if you don't establish a relationship.
right.
Yeah.
It's not genuine, you know.
Yeah, but I think another thing is mentorship on the other side, receiving it. Like people get scared to receive criticism. They feel like they got to get defensive, or they got to be like, nah, I know what I'm doing. Like, nah, like somebody's more experienced than you. Somebody's been there, done that. Like, listen to it. You ain't got to do everything they did exactly how they did it, but like take into consideration their experience, you know?
Especially when that person that's trying to give you this information is somewhere that you are trying to get to.
Yeah, for sure.
Or somebody that's had similar experiences to you. So that bounces back to what you said, having that relationship. You got to know these people. But even if you don't have a personal relationship with them, somebody that you don't know, if they're taking the time out of their day to talk to you, take that information in, especially if they coming at you correctly.
That's a whole mentality
my
shift too,
problem.
though. Because like criticism is hard to deal with, right, initially. So somebody getting on you like, man, what's this dude talking about? But when you start looking at it like, oh, this dude, he took an hour out of his day to look at my EPR, or he took an hour out of his day to talk to me about something. When you start looking at it like that, then it's like, oh man, they really trying to help, and you can be more receptive to it.
Honestly, I think I get more out of just the normal conversations than I do like a ACA, like sitting down, like a structured format. Like I would prefer to just like, hey man, let me holler at you real quick. And then you pull me to the side, say whatever you gotta say, and I can accept it or I can keep it moving. But I'm a nugget guy, so you can drop a small snippet of something that you may not even think is good advice, but that's what I'm gonna hold on to. Like I'm big on like quotes and stuff like that. So
ACA is like a catch-all though, because some people like you might grasp nuggets. Some people I talk to and I think they just be daydreaming.
yeah.
Like I feel like I'm giving them all these gems. I'm like,
I'm spitting.
like I'm giving you my best.
I know I'm dropping some knowledge right now. And they just,
I'm rare form today. I'm giving you some
He
knowledge.
said, man, hey, who recording this?
He's just on the phone. He's thinking about some other stuff. So ACA like, all right, man, let me formalize this stuff. 'Cause I'm trying to tell you, you trash the whole year. You ain't been listening. That's what I've been trying to get to. So this is good.
Hey,
man.
Make sure I document MFR.
Yeah, make sure we get this documented,
Get
baby.
this loaded, man. So, have you gotten your ACA and everything else since you've been here?
Yeah, I've got one ACA. This is like actually my first ACA I've ever
Here?
gotten since I've been in the Air Force.
Oh, wow.
I got one
That's
when I was
wild.
like an A1C, and I never like my last EPR I had like a 2. And I didn't know I was gonna receive a 2. 'Cause I never got an ACA. No one ever told me like I was doing bad or anything.
So it's like no midterm, no just feedback at all whatsoever?
No, it wasn't feedback. Like I used to mess up, and I just call me in the office. Next you know, I have an LOC to sign. Like no one ever told me like, hey, you messed up. No one told me why I messed up. They just give me like an LOC, and that led to more problems because that's how I developed
So nobody
an attitude.
talked to you about like rebuttals or anything like that?
Like for rebuttals, I just had to like learn how to do it myself. I went to like the ADC, and they taught me how to do rebuttals, and like no one ever like
Set you down like, hey man, this is like put you under their wing.
No,
I think that's screwed up, man.
it is.
For somebody to go through that, like not just, I don't know, stuff like that bothers me. Like I'm big on taking care of people, so it's like I don't care if you like me or like some people, I rub people the wrong way because I'm like so blunt or straightforward, but everybody, I think, will say that I will take care of you, like regardless whether we have an issue or not. Like I'm gonna take care of you.
I think it comes down to like people are just scared to have tough conversations, right? It's
I
from
can
all
see that,
levels. Like
for
it's
sure.
easy as a supervisor. It's easy when you got a troop that's a rock star.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
doing everything. It's easy to give the good feedback. It's hard when you got to tell somebody, hey man, you a 2 this year, or you below my standards, or I'm a non-rec you for a deck. You know, it's easier just to not say nothing and like, you know, they about the PCS. They'll find out when they looking Prada and it ain't there.
Yeah.
But they'll find out when
that's
it's time to
sad,
sign
man.
it. It's sad, but really it does all boil down to tough conversations. Like people are scared to be honest with people and tell them they're not performing.
Yeah, people don't want to step up. So I got a message for you supervisors out there. Talk to your airmen. Do what you're supposed to do. Don't fake that paperwork at the end of the EPR cycle and expect these folks to sign this stuff. Do your job.
But on the flip, if you're gonna do that, make it constructive criticism, all right? Because it ain't no value in telling somebody they're not performing if you can't tell them how they can improve.
Yeah,
you
that
gotta
vagueness.
you gotta give people
Yeah.
time to improve too. So that's part of it. Like that's why I think it's hard to give bad feedback because you have to have an answer too.
Yeah.
You can't tell me I'm not performing if you don't tell me how I can improve.
Right. I mean, sometimes it's simple, especially for our career field in maintenance, where somebody's not being like a go-getter, you know, not getting up to go accomplish tasks on the aircraft. It's easy to say, hey man, why you always the last person in the room? Like why everybody always got to tell you to go do something? Like things like that. It's easy for us, but to see it from another career field, like admin, like how do you explain that to somebody in an administrative career field?
I mean, it's just the same thing. It's just culture is different for us. We got like
For sure.
I think tangible. I could see you not getting up to get on the truck.
Yeah.
I could see you coming into work late. I could see. You know what I'm saying? This like tasks I could see.
Yeah,
Like
and
maybe
again,
admin might be different.
Yeah, like when we go to do those ACAs or whatever, when we first get that troop, we give them our expectations. So they know what we expect from them. So if you're not sitting down having those conversations and you just rating this person based off of something that you think they should know when you didn't sit down and talk to them, yeah.
So where y'all get to supervise them and you up and coming? Like, where do y'all get your expectations from? Like, when you doing ACAs, like, cause I know a lot of different people have different answers and different rules for how they even give expectations.
Yeah, it don't matter. So for me, I look at the experience of the shop, like what we moving, what we getting to. I will never put anybody on a tougher expectation than I put myself on. Like, just to be honest. Especially when I was in your position, I would never expect somebody who outranked me to go grab tools. I would never expect somebody who outranked me to be the first one trying to accomplish a task. Like stuff like that, like simple things. Being on top of my own training, on top of my own PT, stuff like that. That's stuff that I'm big on. So.
I know for me personally, before I even write my expectations down on this ACA, we're gonna have a conversation about what you want to do and what you want out of your career.
Makes sense.
Because I'm not going to sit there and strive for you to be the best airman in the world and me do all this other stuff for you when you're talking about you want to get out. I'm going to help you so that you're not failing, but I'm going to make sure that our goals at the end of the day are meeting each other.
Lined up.
I'm not going to let you fail, but if that's not something that you want to do, if you don't want to be a career airman, you don't want to make chief one day, and you getting out after this enlistment, we're going to make this so that you can do what you got to do. You go and get your meets and everything. Or if you want to go above and beyond that as far as school and everything and volunteering, we're going to talk about that. We're going to have the tough conversations about what it is, how your goals line up with the Air Force's goals and how we meet in the middle.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that concept of both lanes. However, if you're going to do a job, do it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I see, like, I don't think it's okay to be mediocre. That's just not my mental, like in my mental capacity. You don't have to want to stay in the Air Force, but while you're in the Air Force, you got to rock this out.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You got to rock this out. So that's just the way I see it.
So your expectations are the same for all you guys?
For all my guys. I don't hold nobody to a different, like, if you all with my troops, it'll be the same expectation across the board. You guys will rank where you rank. However, like, I'm going to expect everybody to come with their A game when they come to work.
Interesting. What they teach you in ALS?
Yeah, you just graduated. Come on,
now.
man.
You fresh grad. You last class, man. What they tell you about these ACAs and expectations?
So I think the dark side of the ACA or like the other side of the ACA that they taught us is like, it's as the airman itself is meant to be a safeguard for you so that when like EPR comes, no one could tell you something different like what's on here. Like, hey, like 2 months ago you told me I was getting this, why am I getting this now? So it's kind of like a safeguard for you as an airman yourself. And it's also a good way to keep track of like how you're doing throughout the year and what you could improve on. Like, so when you get the initial, your supervisor gives you expectations, and when you get your midterm, you should be performing better than you were at the initial. Like, you should be rated a little bit higher. If not, then you know what to work on when you get your final.
All right, so we get an A1C comes in. Yeah. Say they come in December, your first troop. Like, where are you pulling from to write your expectations out for the initial feedback?
So just basically, like what their goals are.
It's based on their individual goals. Or? I'm trying to figure out what, because we got like a lot of people. It's subjective, right? A lot of people put their individual expectations on it, and I've always believed in like living in a black and white a little bit, right? So your expectations might be different than mine. So all right, now what does the force structure say for your rank? What is, the CFETP, Career Field Education Training Plan? Like, what is for a 7 level crew chief?
Exactly.
What are you supposed to be able to do? What's meeting for that? And then what's, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's like, we got 21 101, you know what I'm saying? You're expediter, you're supposed to be able to do X, Y, and Z. So I can live in these. You got the Air Force standards. So I think a lot of those are baselines. A lot of people don't even look in those documents. And I think it'll help you from being so subjective and putting your own personal expectations, because you could be like, all right, this dude's getting out in 2 years, so I got really low bar for him.
Yeah, it's not even.
So, and he could be killing it by doing the basic stuff. This dude, a rock star, you just expecting the world from him, but that ain't what, the Air Force is asking him to be good at.
Yeah.
So it kind of keeps me in check, just knowing, okay, this is what the baseline is.
Makes sense.
So I think it helps too when you get talking to your troops, so you can point to like actual documents that say that. Like, this ain't just my word. This is what this says. This is what that says. And it's a good starting point, and then you can build your own style, like, from that. But it's always good to be rooted in something that's in black and white.
Like OG, man.
Always.
I like people's like. I feel like I'm not a supervisor yet, but like from what I learned and like how I go about life, I like to like figure out what people like to do, like what they want to do, and like I put my expectations on that kind of like, hey, you want to get out in this year, you want to get your school, okay, like I expect you to do this much classes, to get your degree, but still like maintain your job proficiency and still doing your job, but like I like to figure out how I can help somebody, because like when I got it, no one helped me to do what I wanted to do. So I feel like I want to like return the favor and like, hey, I'm gonna help you out. That's what I would do as a supervisor. Like try to help somebody achieve what they want to do.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so important for like the constant feedback, not just the ACA or the midterm or anything or EPR. Like I think the constant flow of communication is always gonna be more beneficial than just hitting these Air Force check boxes and stuff like that.
Listen, that's just the way I think, just to standardize it. But the off the cuff conversations are the best. Like,
yeah, for sure.
We just sitting there, quick 5-10 minutes, bar, here you go.
Because you know all of us in here, we do that all the time. We had a conversation, what was it, last weekend at the bowling alley for like 40 minutes about some stuff.
Yeah.
It happens like that.
It happens. Like, it's just the fact that you know somebody actually, they caring about what you got going on. They might care about you and your career more than you care about you and your career. And that, because I know you was coming in, working on my EPR, and I'm like, it's done. That's what I was thinking at first, and I'm like, hold on, he ain't even got to be here. He's supposed to be out processing. I'm just like, all right, cool. Let me step my game up so that he not having to do all of this work by himself for me. Like, that just made me feel terrible. I was just like, all right, cool.
But I'm saying it's part of the game to me. Like, as you promote, that's you charged with that.
Yeah.
Like, you should be taking care of your people. Like, that's not extra effort. That's what comes with the territory. And for you coming up, like, that's why we talked about ACE last time, but it's not a sponsorship, but like the professional orgs, they help with connections. So a lot of part of taking care of people is knowing where to go for answers. Because they're going to have questions for you that you don't know. Like, you're crew chief. Like, you're not going to know all these answers, but knowing where to find them and knowing where you can ask at. Like, knowing, okay, I can go to my PERS and go in the search tab and type in something. Like, there's a lot of resources.
It's like my new best friend, man. For real.
You gotta know how to
put
find
anything in there.
As a leader, you got to know how to find information, because people going to come to you with all kind of problems.
That curtailment, man, I jumped in there. I found it quick, though. Hey, whoever put my PERS together, hey, thanks all to you.
It made my life
It got
easy,
me
man.
exactly what I needed to be, man. And just for here at Inselic, Master Sergeant Jackson at Titan U, she's pretty good at directing those classes. So she taught a class on how to navigate my PERS. So if you get a chance, like even though you're an airman, I think you should still take that. It'll help you out in your supervisory endeavors. So
Definitely, man.
yeah.
I think right now you can share some stories about how mentorship helped you, like when you was in, don't matter, good place, bad place, just something that stood out for you in your career that helped you out as far as mentorship went.
I was in recruiting for maybe 6 months to a year, something like that, and we swapped flight chiefs. And I was so used to the previous flight chief that the new one came in. We call it blowing up your AFRIS or whatnot. That's the program that we use to track all of our applicants and everything. And when you get blue, that means you're not doing something right. One of the other recruiters unfortunately got fired, and all his people were transferred over to me. So I reached out to him, tried to contact as many as I could, shot text messages, emails, gave phone calls. And this was day one. Day two is when he took over, and he hit me with we're not taking care of this guy, you're not doing your job. Put this in AFRIS. Like, everybody can see AFRIS from like our squadron commander on up. Like anybody in AFRS can see this. And I got in my feels a little bit, and I called him. I was like, yo, what you doing? You know, we had like an intense conversation. And before we got off the phone, he says, Fitz, I'm gonna be the best damn supervisor you ever had. And I said, get out of here, man. I hung up the phone, man. I didn't want to hear that. Like, and it came true. Like, he turned out to be the best supervisor I've ever had. Like, he never held me back from anything. Even when I didn't want to do something or push myself to be great, like I had a case of the Mondays, because we all have them or whatnot. And I would have a case of the Mondays. He called me on some energetic BS in my eyes at the time, but I'm like, man, I'm tired of this. Like, this dude always calling me. He's like, are you enthusiastic? Like, no, get off my phone.
Monday, get off my phone.
Get off my phone. But it was like little things like that. Like, in the moment when he signed it, I'm like, ugh. But I hang up the phone and I'm feeling enthusiastic. I'm like, all right, big dog, let me knock out this 2-hour case file or whatever I'm doing. So like, he always did things to put me in a position that I didn't even want to put myself in. You know, crew chief mentality, you typically don't like to be recognized for awards and things like that. But he made sure, because of my effort that I was putting into it, he made sure I was recognized for that stuff, even though I didn't want it. And looking back at it right now, where I'm at in my career, I think that played a big factor for me, like, promoting.
So going back to like when I lost the stripe, like in my workplace, I was going through like a lot of headaches. Everyone's like making fun of me, kind of like, oh man, you A1C again, and like I didn't want to do my job anymore. Like I used to go on the flight line, I used to just like mope around. I didn't want to do anything. So that hurt me even more. So I lost the stripe, and plus I wasn't doing my job after a while because I was just depressed, and I wasn't like me. So it was just like the depression. Like depression is like a big thing, and I have a stigma for like mental health. People don't realize like you actually go to mental health, they'll actually help you out. They think it's going to hurt your career. I don't really think it never hurt my career so far. It actually helped me a lot. So I think that I learned that stigma of going to mental health is bad early on. So that's something that's important to me.
All right, I know for me personally, I got a DUI back in the day. Thought I was going to lose it all. My first shirt wasn't even my supervisor, but he's still my mentor to this day, even though he's retired. I call him up, talk to him, send him EPRs, and he tells me the same thing that Marcus does. This is garbage. What are you doing? I taught you better than this. So.
You still ain't learned nothing, no big dog?
Still ain't learning nothing. All this feedback we give.
What's wrong with you,
To a wall.
So, like, for me, I didn't have an older brother. He was like my first one. Then I got two more when I got here with these guys. So, the mentorship that he got me kept me out of jail, kept me from losing my stripe, losing my rank, got me tech sergeant first time. So, everything that he did helped me out to help out my troops, because I'm like, if somebody cared about me that just met me 2 days before I got a DUI enough to help me save my career, then I can do it for some folks that I don't know, or even especially the people that I do know and care about. So that's where mentorship played a big part in my life and my career.
You know what's crazy, man? I used to always look back, like, in my career. I used to be like, man, I never had no mentors. Nobody ever, I always felt like I got it on my own. Like, I used to always say that. And so, like, I started looking back, like, hindsight's always, like, 20/20. So I was looking back, and I realized people always would put me in positions without never saying nothing to me. Like, I never realized it, like, in my first base, because it took me, like, 2 years to adapt to the military, like, because I had it easy. I picked up crew chief easy. I was, top grad in tech school, got to the base, deployed early, but I had a temper. I didn't realize it. I thought, like, as long as I worked hard, like, I couldn't adjust to people talking to me like an airman, because my first base especially, man, they would talk to you like your rank. Like, I'd be like, man, I'm grown, man. I've been alive X amount of years. What are you talking to me like that for? But they'd be like little conversations people would have for me. And it's like, I got to my first base, Charleston, same thing. Like, nobody would say nothing to me, but they were like, I was there for 10 months. They put me on the FCC program. Like, there's one dude that put in the word for me to get on that, or just different opportunities will come up and people always will slowly look out or slowly drop lines. And I realize that's because of my personality, I think. I got a strong personality, so people sometimes don't think they can reach me a certain way. So they'll just like do little things on the side, like, and kind of guide me, or like a little conversation like we have. Somebody will just say something to me and it'll resonate with me 6 months later. Like, I'll be thinking about it, I was like, he's right, man. So I think people just kind of guide you sometimes without even knowing it. Like, and that's been my story. And I think also trying to do stuff that I saw people not doing coming up. Like, I thought I had a lot of weak supervisors. Like, my first couple years in the military, like, people weren't very strong, like, scared to speak up. And I used to hate that, because I'm like, man, how am I A1C, a senior airman, and I want to say something. My supervisor's scared to talk. Like, I look crazy. So, because same thing, like, I didn't get a DUI, but like, I never got in trouble in the military. Like, one of my first deployment, I got into it with the staff, man. Like, I swung on them first deployment. It was hot, like 110 degrees in Kuwait, man.
You're not you when you're hot.
Yeah, it's hot, man. I'm saying, that wasn't me. I need a Snickers bar or something. And I was mad. And I went 4 months, man. I did the whole deployment, come back, never paperwork. I came back. They wanted to send me on the rodeos?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I came back. I want me to do rodeo. I want me to do 12-hour shifts rodeo on my recon. And I was like, man, I don't want to do it. Pick somebody else. And they was like, you know how rumors spread. Mm-hmm. So by that time, I had beat up the dude. By the time the story got back to my base.
I mean, I say that too. If he ain't here to defend himself, buddy probably whooped that.
Yeah, but like I said to say, like, but I say that to say what happened was, like, I got a control roster LOR UAF my first time, first use paperwork. And my supervisor in there, he was just sitting in the corner, wouldn't say nothing. And I'm over there like, what does this mean? I never talked to the ADC, nothing. I'm reading through these words. I'm like, assault? I ain't even make contact. How's this assault? And they would just be like, just sign it. And I hated that feeling, man. It just felt like helpless, man. I was like, so going forward, I was never afraid to speak up for my guys, because I feel like that's what I was there for. Yeah. And to this day, I still take that same mentality. Like, you can cuss me out all day, just don't cuss out my guys.
Yeah.
I'll take the heat. It ain't nothing
Jump
to me.
in front of that bullet.
Yeah, but you get paid for that. That's part of that. Come with promotion. Like you make staff, you start making tech. Like it just comes with the territory. So once I started thinking of it like that, it just became easy.
I think it was easier for like staffs or people early in my career to sit back and not give advice because they figure like if you got it, they just let you go. Like it's easy to let that rock star or whomever like just continue to walk their path. However common, like they don't know everything. Like you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it. Like if nobody's there to constantly give you more advice or feed you more knowledge, especially if you don't know what you're digging for or what's next, like how do you grow at that point?
That's a dope point.
You say what?
No, I said that's a dope point because that's another part of it. It's easy like to find mentorship opportunities for people that are struggling. Mm-hmm. But the ones that are excelling at everything, you got to find something for them too. Like you got to push them. Like, and that's the hard part. It's hard trying to push somebody that's already driven, but you got to give them food. You got to let them eat.
And I think that was why I appreciate my flight chief from my last squadron or whatnot, is because no matter how good I was doing, he always pushed me to do more. So like we had this instance where all right, it's kind of sad, but the flight goal was 14. I put in 10 bodies that month, and like the other guys didn't push forward, but he was like, where you at? You ain't coming to play. Like we still down 4 bodies. And I'm thinking like, man, I put in 10 people. What you talking about? It's like, it's supposed to be 9 of us here. Like I put in 10 people, I'm good. But he was like, no, you winning with the teammate. I'm like, all right, cool. I had to get back on the horse and try to make something happen. Luckily, the other guys ended up stepping up too, but just the thought process to always be great and put the team, even if you got to put forth more effort. It's like a marriage, man. Everything ain't 50-50 or split evenly. Sometimes you got to put in the 80 while somebody else is putting in the 20. Sometimes you got to put in the 90 while somebody putting in that 10. So you just got to keep moving, man, keep progressing. So, hey, I didn't heard it.
Gems today. So far.
Hey, I'm trying to spit.
Yeah.
So as a young guy, what do you expect out of like not just your supervisor, but people who outrank you like in the shop? Like what do you expecting? What are your expectations?
And be honest with this. You can let it flow.
Let it fly, man.
Oh, yeah. Just let me know when I fuck up or mess up.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, I just like.
That's cool. Hey, we damn straight talk.
Yeah.
We out here. We doing our thing.
No, cause I feel like people always tell you like, oh, you know you're doing good, but you never realize yourself what you're messing up. Like sometimes people see other things that you don't. Mm-hmm. So you can be like messing something up and you never know. You think you're doing a good job, but really you know you're fucking everything up. Yeah. So just like being like just honesty. Like everyone I would appreciate everyone giving me like individual feedback of what I'm doing wrong. And not just from my supervisor, from anybody. Like, hey Green, you probably should do this way. I'm like, all right, cool. That's a problem I had early on. I had an attitude problem. I didn't really like to hear anything from anybody. I was stubborn. And that was my downfall, really. So I feel like now I'm more accepting to it. So just like now I appreciate like criticism, like feedback. So
I think that's a common theme though, like the transition from civilian life into the military. Like we all had that stubborn. I still go through that to this day, man. Like my own principles as a man, if I feel like they're violated, I react to it. I'm not saying it's the right or wrong thing to do. However, like that's who I am. That's who I've been my entire life. I think it's important to always be who you are. Like the picture on the wall. You be too much for some people, those aren't your people. Like be who you are genuinely, always, at all times. And like let the chips fall where they may. People gonna accept you who should be around you, and the people who shouldn't be around you, they're not gonna accept you. Let them be. But just be who you are, man. Be who you are.
I talk about this every time I talk to anybody. Your circle is your life. Like them people that you keep around you are gonna make sure that you good. Because me, I have a problem with my filter. I don't have one. It's broken, it's out of order. That's why I got people around me to check me. And be like, yo, Glove, that was great, but what did you do at the end, fam? What were you thinking? So, yeah.
We talking about?
Yeah, like, exactly. Go straight to the. I'm like, man, messed it up for the whole team, man.
You had one job, big dog.
My job is what I tell myself every day. Do your best, but watch yourself, because you don't want to become a liability to the people that surround you.
I think it's always key, like you said, to have people around you who are willing to check you. So like, the criticism from superior is cool, but it means more to me when it comes from somebody who I value. So like if I'm messing up and let's say my superintendent comes to me, he says something, I'm like, all right, cool, I hear you. But if Marcus came to me, he was like, hey man, look, and had a straight talk with me, and I'm like, all right, that's probably gonna weigh on me. Like when I go home, I'm gonna sit there like, oh, okay, shit. I gotta fix myself, you know. But I just think it's key to be around people who gonna check you, and you got to do the same thing for them. You have to do the same thing for them.
I look at it in all aspects, man. I try not to get too high, too low.
Yeah.
So, and it helps having just my circle, right? Because people gas you up sometimes when you ain't doing, you half-assing, and people still gonna gas you up. Sometimes people be more critical than they should be, maybe because their expectations are, that's why I say being rooted in something black and white, because sometimes people's expectations could be above what you even supposed to be doing. You know, and so sometimes I try to be rooted and like, all right, as long as I get criticism from people that I respect, then I'm fine with it. Or even praise, I'll take that. But everybody else, it's kind of like white noise sometimes, like just background.
Yeah. So speaking of that, I had a troop where my expectations may have been too high for this kid or whatnot. So he was doing this thing. He was working hard. Some people would praise him. Some people, he liked to be seen. You know, like one of those people like to be seen, like a bunch of volunteers, stuff like that. Especially in the crew chief world, it's kind of frowned upon. But my expectations while he was at work, like I said before, it's like never have somebody who outranked you start a task that you should have started or whatnot. And I expressed what those tasks were. And every maybe 2 to 3 weeks, I come back to him and give him feedback from what I'm hearing, because we weren't on the same shift, which I don't know if like a direct supervisor should be on a different shift, but that's another conversation. But I would get feedback and I give it to him, like, hey, this is what I'm hearing, this is what's happening or whatnot. And I marked him accordingly based off of like looking into the regulations on what you should be doing at this pay grade and everything like that. I marked him accordingly, but however, everybody didn't do the same thing for their troop. So he got a 4, which is still good for EPR when everybody else was getting firewall 5s because I held the standard. So in my attempt to look back, hindsight 2020, I wish I would have rated him the same, like on the same playing field as everybody else. He still made staff and everything. However, I feel like I held him back a little bit in that aspect because it wasn't a fair playing field because I wasn't able to rate everybody else the same way. So like just because I was your mentorship or your mentor or his supervisor, he's rating him differently. So my standard was a little bit tougher in compared to somebody else's.
I mean, that's the tricky part though, but I think especially like in the evaluation system, like it's funny, like I see people all the time that are marked all the way to the right, but their bullets are half-assed. Like people copy and paste a bunch of white space, misspell words, no effort. And then I see maybe I might mark you 4, you know what I'm saying, or 1 spot back, but I'm gonna take my time and spend a lot of time in your product. And so I think now when I read EPRs, I don't really care about ratings. I could tell how much your supervisor cared about you or how well you did by the effort they put in writing it. And that's what I try to just look at now. So, cause everybody's gonna, like I said, you might not care. You just like, you know what, everybody's to the right. Because we said tough conversations, right? Nobody wants to mark anybody back because now you got to explain it. So it's easy just to mark you to the right and copy and paste your bullets and send it forward.
I wish it was a more direct way to put everybody on a level playing field. But like you said, it's opinionated. It depends on the supervisor and what their expectations are to determine like where you're gonna get rated at. Yeah. So it's kind of tough.
So I got a question for everybody. For you two, which one of your troops taught you like the biggest lesson that you like take forward? Like as far as it came to like mentoring them and supervising them, and for you, which one of your supervisors, bad or good, taught you the biggest lesson that you had? And we can start with you, Jamal.
Oh, yes, sir. So like my supervisor, I'm not gonna name his name, but my supervisor in my last base definitely taught me how not to be. Like it wasn't even like my direct supervisor, it was like he was like my second chief or whatever. He definitely taught me like how not to be like as a person, like make you feel like unappreciated, like no matter what you do, it was like not appreciated. And he just made like the whole place just like I never realized how like one person can make a whole section just feel horrible. Like I never realized that till like early on. So in hindsight, like he taught me like how not to be. So I try my best every day to like learn and like how not to be like that person.
So for me, my biggest like was probably one of my first troops. We were actually friends. We were senior airmen together, and I got promoted to staff, and he became my troop. He ended up getting a DUI hit and run, but my level of respect for him was already there, like as a worker and everything like that, and then making sure he was taken care of. He was already a friend of mine. So when I became a supervisor, just the constant caring for somebody is what kind of stuck with me. Like even to this day, he'll still reach out to me and he'll just say, hey, I appreciate you as a supervisor. Like as a supervisor, not just a friend, but as a supervisor. And that means a lot to me. Just being as though like that was It was almost 10 years ago. Almost 10 years ago. Well, I'm sorry, that was 8 years ago. So, like, for him to still talk about me being his supervisor, it makes me make sure I want to give that same level of care or respect or dedication to everybody I'm around. So, like, it's not the awards that you get. It means nothing. It doesn't mean half as much as, like, the legit conversations where somebody's just like, hey, I appreciate you.
Jamal was like my second troop, right? So like first year I put on staff, and this dude, I inherited him. Like, you know, a reputation in maintenance is like, once you get a bad rep, it goes, right? So this dude, I inherited him, he's horrible. You know, he's getting QA fails all the time, da-da-da. And so we're talking, just having a regular conversation like we do now. This was started my whole off-the-cuff thing, because we would just talk. And like, come to find out, this dude had been at a debrief like 3-4 months. You know, being senior airman there, so he hadn't worked the line in 2 or 3 years. But people were treating him like, you know, he was a senior airman that should have been on the line. I was like, oh, this is easy. This is why you failing, because you don't know what this is. We'll go through the cards. And like, but he was too scared to ask for feedback, because everybody would look at him like, oh, you a senior airman, you seasoned, you should know this. And he would just fake it. Like, he would go out there and just literally, I swore he would just pencil whip inspections, because there was no way he knew what he was looking at. Yeah. And so it took, like, we sat there, we took like a couple weeks. We went through every card, you know, all this type of stuff. And like, a year later, he made staff, man, and he came up to me crying. And he was like, man, I appreciate you. And like, that was like the most memorable thing for me, because I'm like, that's what it's about. Like, because people were ready to throw him away without giving him a chance, simply because they didn't look in his history. Like, he wasn't good on the line because he was removed from the line for 2 years. Spend a couple weeks, spin him back up, and he'll be fine. But nobody's willing to take 2 weeks to go through the basics with him. That's all you got to do. Like, people aren't failing just because they want to suck. Like, don't nobody come to work and want to suck at their job. Like, if you just, you know, do a little work, a little digging, you can figure out what it is and get to the bottom of it. So.
But that was as simple as you having a conversation,
It's
which
simple.
most people don't want to have.
Simple.
Most people
Like,
do not want to have that conversation. That's sad. But yeah.
yeah, it was simple. Like, look, he came in there, he failed like one more inspection. I was like, what's good with you? It was simple. Like I tried, there's no judgment, nothing. I was like, we was in the office by myself. I was like, man, so what's up, man? Why you failing all the time?
Yeah. hey.
I was like, you just
He ain't lying either.
No. I asked him, like, so you just don't know what you're looking at or something? He's like, nah, I don't.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's it. That's all we got to do.
But you know the vibes, man. You know how that go.
Yeah. Just do it.
Cool.
I know for me, mine was, I graduated ALS, put on staff. I got back, I immediately got 6 troops. Immediately. One of the guys that I had as a troop, we was cool from before. I was a senior airman, he was an A1C. We worked all the time. Man was excellent at work. Off shift, the man had terrible problems. Like, my problem was I decided that, like, I was gonna fight for him regardless. Like, I went to bat for him every time he got in trouble. I was still there for my other troops, but not as much as I should have been, because I had one problem child out of the 6 guys that I had. So with him, and he was like my friend. So I fought so hard for him, but I wasn't hard enough on him to try to get him the help that he needed so that he could get out of the rut that he was in. Because work performance-wise, he was better than everybody. But his life outside of work was just in shambles, and nobody could figure out why. I had many conversations with him, never got to the bottom of it. But I failed as a supervisor in my part because I waited until he was mandated to go to places in order to get him help. I didn't take him there myself. So for me, that was my biggest lesson. Just because you cool with somebody, just because you want to help them, helping them sometime is getting them the help that they need, holding them accountable for what that they're doing. And I still feel bad about that. Like, when they all tested for staff, I had 5 guys make it out of 6. I was so happy for them, but I was still mad at myself because I let this one go to the wayside.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you know you care, though. Mm-hmm. Like, when most people who want to be great or like anything like that, they become obsessed. You became obsessed with making sure you take care of your people, and letting one not make it affected you, which means you were probably doing your job 9 times out of 10. You were actually like putting forth effort to make sure everybody succeeded. So I think that's pretty dope. The form of like accountability, though, kind of how we were talking earlier about like your friends like giving you that feedback. Like, even though you guys were friends, like you were still a supervisor and everything like that accountability piece is definitely important. Definitely important. So I see that on both ends of the spectrum, whether we in the military or out the military. Like we gotta like give that accountability and give that feedback for everybody. So
yeah, I think it's like people like it's easier. That's why like this has been dope being here for the last year because we all ain't no distractions. Ain't nobody got kids, no wives, husbands. You know what I mean, we could just do this. But the problem is when you back home, like everybody got different distractions, right? So you got your family life. You got okay, I'm gonna go drive to New York to go see my family. I'm gonna go drive, back to DC to see my family this weekend. Like you ain't checking on your troops. Like you taking leave, 2 weeks here, 3 weeks there. So the problem is like, how do we continue to be like this? And for lack of a better term, the real world. When you have when you have all these distractions, you're trying to balance, along with being a supervisor. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just being inclusive. Like we all got families, or we all have things going on. Like if somebody else has a wife, link up. Like allow it to become a bigger family, and not just like, hey, like my work life is my work life, my home life is my home life. Like so many people will be like, oh, I live so far away from the base because I don't want to be involved with the military after I'm off. It's like, nah, man, like we are still a family. Like so like you guys are going to Hickam together. If I went out to Hickam, I would still expect us to hang out. Like with me having a family and everything, I still you are a part. It's expanded now. So.
I used to be like that though. I was that dude. Like as soon as I left the gates,
like I don't want no
not for real. I get like a gym membership off base, and like I'm serious like that because I didn't want to work out on base. I'm like, man, once I'm gonna put in like this 8 to 12 hours on base, and once I leave these gates, I'll see y'all on Monday. And I used to be like that, man. But now I'm like, I understand it's important to have contact with your guys, go to events, link up. It's as simple as getting a drink, watching a football game, because you got to be able to establish that you got to have that rapport. Like I said, you got to be able to connect with people before you lead them, before you mentor them.
For sure. But that's the thing. Like a lot of people get hung up on the whole Air Force aspect, where it's like, hey, you can't be friends with your troops or this or that. But how do you become personable, or how do you flirt with that fine line of not overstepping your boundaries and still mentoring somebody? What's your takes on that?
I think I'm gonna speak for myself, right? I'm myself off duty all the time, but I think when I come through those doors, like on Monday, whatever, like I try to make a hard line, like this ain't personal, like. And so I think that's the key, like being able to, you can party with someone on the weekend, hang out with them, that's cool, but when it's time to handle business, like you're firm, like you're making sure your position is respected. And it's a balance for everybody, I can't tell anybody how to do it, but that's just the mindset I always have had, and I would hope everybody respects me as such.
And I know, like as far as you were saying earlier, like for me, it's about having that hard conversation. Like you already know what it is when we're at work. When there's work to be done, that's what we here for. We off work, that's cool. But I'm me 24/7. My attitude don't change whether I got a uniform on, some J's on, don't matter. I'm always gonna be me unapologetically. But I just let my troops know, hey, I used to have them over my house, had barbecues on the weekend. Because you gotta build that rapport, as you were saying, because if you don't have that, how are you gonna expect somebody to come to you when they need something? Or when they're going through something. Because I know my first 3 supervisors I had in the Air Force, I wouldn't go to them for anything. They didn't talk to me at work. I hit them up outside of work. They didn't want to respond. So I'm like, why in the world would I come to you with information? I would go to the people that was over them, then they get mad at me. Why are you talking to this person instead of me? You ignore me, man. Ignore my phone call. I think all the negativity that I had when I first got in allowed me to see what I did not want to be later on in life when I got that title.
Yeah. I think it's still important to have a good time at work too, though.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, I know like when tasks need to be done, but at the same token, like you can laugh and get a task done, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you have a good time, enjoy yourself. So like, what you see? I mean, you work in the shop. I know you just coming out of ALS, but.
I feel like you guys do a great job of like fostering like a fun like family environment where everyone's feel comfortable. But it's like you guys do it like so well. Like, it's like a balance. Like, like if I see you outside of work, it's different. But when I come back to work, it's like, okay, I know how to be professional. So just like being able to like, okay, we're on like a friendly level, but also being able to maintain that professionalism at all times is pretty good too. And I think you guys do a good balance of that too. So if you give me bad feedback at work, like it won't affect like anything outside because it's like I already had that respect. I already know like you guys care. So it's like. It won't bother me at all. I
think that term is like if you take care of your people, they'll take care of you. That thing come like
that's real.
Full circle. Like you said, if somebody has respect for you and they know like, hey, I'm not gonna push these lines. I'm not gonna like overstep my boundaries And even if, like, you know, sometimes the tiger get out of the cage, like, with us, how much we talk trash to each other all the time, like just in joking, like sometimes the tiger can get out of the cage, but you know how to reel it back in. Like it's not like a disrespectful thing. It's like okay, cool. Let me make sure I'm legit now.
It's just important to have like your lines, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
and be consistent. So you know, like I said, if I'm friendly with you at work, and that's ain't nothing wrong with being like that. But if I'm trying to come down on you one day for doing something, and then you do the same thing the next week, and I don't say nothing,
Yeah.
you ain't gonna respect
That
my opinion. You like, you know, he ain't consistent, man. He just showing out because people in the room. So
Yeah.
I think it's important to be consistent, and people know where you stand on certain issues. So
I don't know. Like for me, I prefer people who are. I prefer like blunt, harsh information over like some fake like smile on your face type of stuff. Like so that's up and down the chain of command. So if we ever had we haven't, but if we ever had an instance where you just wanted to tell me something I wanted to hear versus telling me something I needed to hear, I probably would lose respect for an individual up or down the chain of command. So that's just me personally. I'm not sure how y'all feel about that.
Nah, I get it. I mean, but you do have to adapt it to certain people though, because you're gonna lead different types of people.
Yeah,
Some people can't take the blunt criticism, so you got to learn how to, what they say, put the candy in the medicine or something like that. Ain't that like a phrase?
I ain't never heard that
Yeah,
one though.
but look, it's also like you said before, the way that your actually you said it, the way that your old supervision, like you said, you look back and you had mentors that didn't exactly come to you. It all depends on like, cause I had that early on in my career. Folks wouldn't come and tell me nothing. They have somebody else go and tell me. They'd have a problem with me, but they would have somebody that they thought could deal with me tell me about the issue.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's up with that? And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, I'm like, at the end of the day, because this would be the people that had these stripes on and thought those stripes earned respect for them as a person. And I'm like, if you feel that way, you should be able to talk to me. No matter what it is. If you got the issue, don't send somebody else to come and holler at me about it. Like, it's all about accountability for me at the end of the day. And if you're the one that saw the issue, don't have somebody else bring it to me.
You
hard
address
conversations,
it.
man.
You address
People
it.
scared to have them hard conversations. It's tough. It's easier to type out a bad EPR or write a LOR or LOC. It's hard to tell somebody to their face
Like, hey,
why you wrote it.
screwing up.
It's really hard. So that's where all that stems from. But
I mean, just being direct in communication, man. Communication is definitely key for sure.
direct,
It's most
communicate, and care, man. Just give a damn, honestly.
Yeah, for real.
If you give a damn, everything else is easy.
Yep.
Like I swear, you won't even think about it. You'll just be giving advice to give advice. You know, hey man, I heard about this opportunity. You just do it just because you're showing love, man. Just when you
I
start
think
caring.
another thing that stood out to me, one of the guys, he wasn't my supervisor either, but I was big on like work performance when I was younger, and I didn't volunteer for anything whatsoever. And he was like, hey, how you feel about honor guard? I said, nah, that ain't for me, big dog. Like, I'm good. He's like, good, you start Monday. I was like, oh. I was sad, man. I was like,
it's the perfect answer.
Yeah.
Monday you go.
yeah, I'm like, all right, cool. So I get there, and it turned out to be the best part of my career. So like now, I never look forward to anything. It's like, what you want me to do? I got it. I'll go do it. I'll knock that out. I'm cool with it. But everything I didn't want to do turned out to be great for me in the Air Force and for my career.
Yeah, I think that's another point that we have, at least on our team. We put people in positions.
They don't always
to
like
win.
it though.
They don't always like it, but guess what?
You know.
When that end result come out and you get to go to their door and be like, hey, congratulations, you made staff,
Yeah.
it's all worth it at the end of the day. Or you made this rank, or you won this award. It's all worth it for me at the end of the
People
day.
ain't gonna appreciate it, and it's about later in life. Like,
Yeah,
like a lot of
it's the looking back
There's
that's
people
gonna
that
get
did
'em.
stuff for me. Like I said, I didn't realize it until 3-4 years later, and they probably like, man, this dude don't even know what I looked out, and I didn't. I didn't realize it until 4 years later, but I did.
Hey, but eventually you got to that point. Yeah. I think our shift is just different though. Like I think our team is super unique, man. Like in terms of like how we able to like mesh well together.
Oh, yeah.
Like we don't always have to agree, but we always come down to like the right result, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah. Like, our shift is not a shift. Like, we call every team A team, B team, CD team, whatever. So, but it showed in full effect yesterday on the football field when we had our game. Our team was a team, and we operated as one. And you could tell the dysfunction that was going on the other side. So it's just like, we actually look out for each other.
That's on y'all though. Y'all established that culture, man. That's on y'all level. So y'all pat yourself on the back.
Like
for that.
even coming to the shift though, the shift was already like legit. The shift was already legit. So it's not. I don't feel like I did anything extra coming to the shift. I feel like I maintained what was here. Like honestly, I think I just like the cohesiveness, the ability to like have a brotherhood. Like you give your brothers a hard time, you gonna talk your ish, but at the end of the day, ain't nobody else gonna be able to do that.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I don't know. I love that about where we are as a team. What's your take on it? I mean, you the young cat. Like, you feel that way? Because we give you a lot of trash.
I ain't gonna lie, I do it on purpose because like I like to.
What, you lose on purpose? Is that what you saying? What you saying?
You say
I do it on purpose. I like to when you stir the pot and you see people's emotions, everyone get riled up. I like that.
You don't stir it. You in the middle of the pot. You getting stirred up every time.
To somebody else, man.
I'm the mic out.
I'm the comedic relief. I feel like I'm the comedic relief. Like I feel like my goal is to come and make people laugh. I like doing that. That's why I do it. That's why I do it. You know, I like people laugh. Like if I gotta be a little sacrificial lamb, I'll be it. You know what I'm saying?
I want you to look around this room right now and see how everybody looking at you.
Nah, for real.
No, go ahead, do it. Just look behind you. Our engineer know you lying right now.
This guy had it. Sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But the ship is solid. I love the ship so far. Like I came in, it wasn't even like a rough patch of transition. It was just like smooth transition in. Like everyone was like, "Oh, what's up, Green?" Like everyone talking to me. So immediately I felt welcome. So that's pretty solid to me.
I think the cool thing is like even like people that aren't like socially assertive, like on our shift, like we still make them feel like they can be included. So no name, no blame, but you know what I'm saying? So I think that's pretty dope. But
I'm gonna miss it, man. Just think what's up with the military, man. You get used to certain culture, like subcultures, and then you got a PCS, and now you gotta take a few months, a few weeks to adapt to that and realize the new norms of how people doing things. So.
The cool thing is you get like the lifelong friends and everything or family, but you don't have that constant interaction with that person. Like I think we got really close, especially over the last like couple months, man. And it seemed like every time that happens, like the person has to go.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like, dang.
That's why I told you, man.
I'm gonna just jump in the suitcase and
you gotta get them orders. He leaving soon. I'm gonna be out there.
To the beach, man.
Blanc easy going. We gonna be good.
I'm gonna be in the lick to 2022, man.
Except for Green.
Yeah. Hey, man.
I'm playing you, dog.
Don't worry, you
you
can stay at the crib, bro. I got you.
That's how it is, man. That's how it is.
Nah, and I love what y'all doing too, man. This is gonna be a dope platform going forward, man.
Yeah.
If y'all didn't know, this is something that us and the commander talked about this like a month ago. Just a off the cuff conversation, and these two executed and followed up and made it happen. So definitely, man, I'm appreciative of what y'all doing, and they gonna love it. So keep taking care of people, keep giving people opportunities, you know.
Yeah. This was our first episode, Damn Straight Talk. Just want to give a huge shout out to everybody that was here. We got Parks 2.0 over there, our audio engineer. Our producer is Isaac. We got our wonderful guest here, Jamal, always lose green. And we got
That's tough.
We got Marcus here with us, of course. We got Young Fitz, and I'm Glove, man.
Hey, but before we close it out, shout out to the 728, where we actually got the name from, Damn Straight Nation. Last time we were on the radio, we didn't do that, and we got a little lashing. So just make sure that happened. Cool. Y'all got anything else? Any shout outs for y'all?
Nah, I appreciate, like I said, I'm out the door. I leave tomorrow. I'm hopping on the rotator, so I really appreciate all the 728, man. Y'all been like a family away from home, and I know y'all gonna keep it going. I'll be watching from afar. Keep doing great things, man.
Yeah, we be giving you updates, Big Dog.
Yeah, man.
You're gonna shout out your leadership, bro?
Oh yeah,
we sitting right here.
Thank you, guys.
I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you, man.
That's why you getting traded.
Yeah, one job.
I'm just thankful for having me here.
Go ahead, talk to him.
Thank you for having me here. My first time, and it's actually a good experience. So, I'm thankful. I'm happy to be part of the squadron. So, thank you.
Cool. All right. Yeah, those extra laughs that y'all heard in the background, our boys Blanco and Pat in the background. So, we just want to thank you for being here with us. We'll be back soon, and we out.
Out. Damn Straight Nation, baby.